Here.
Alderperson Wyland.
Here.
Alderperson Yakub.
Here. And do we have a motion to approve the May 3rd minutes?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, and if everyone will indulge me, we're going to kind of skip around a little bit on the agenda. I'd like to go to number 11 first and consider request to conduct the Source 5K run on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th, 2011 at 9 a.m., beginning and ending at 901 4th Street. And Mary Wolpott is here. If you'd like to speak, you may come to the podium. And
Okay, this is our Wetland, she'll be our speaker.
okay, if you'd like to come to the podium and speak and give your name and address, please. Thanks.
Does it have to be in the microphone?
Yes.
If you could, that would be great. People at home.
Okay. You're on TV, so
Okay. My name is Darlene Wendlandt. My address is 816 Dove Court in Hudson, Wisconsin here. And I am representing the Source, and I'm just going to read to you a little bit about us, what Mark had written up here already. I don't know if you have this piece of paper or not, but a little bit about our organization. We are a Hudson organization whose mission is to provide a place where Hudson area residents can meet with volunteers to connect with area agencies that may be able to offer them assistance with their needs. And in addition to connecting callers and visitors with resources, Source also offers phone and computer use. We have a jobs board, gas, haircut, and clothing vouchers. And in July, we're also going to be having some farmers market vouchers. And so we offer visitors emergency groceries, underwear, socks, toiletries, that sort of thing. We stand for, SOURCE is an acronym for Serving Our Underserved Residents Compassionately and Equitably, and we are under the sponsorship of the Hudson Community Fund, which is an affiliate of the St. Croix Valley Foundation. What we are looking to do on Thanksgiving Day is to host a 2K, 5K run so that we can raise some funds for the Source, and I believe we provided a map of what we were hoping the course could be. It starts out in our parking lot and then kind of goes around to the dike and then back again, covering that same area. And so we haven't really made a lot of headway in organizing this. We thought that this would be our first stop to find out if indeed we can get permission, what you might want from us to make sure that it was run safely, whether you wanted a certain amount of police officers scheduled or a certain amount of volunteers, that sort of thing. So we're in the real preliminary stages of organizing it.
Great. Lee, John, any questions?
Are you ready for snow on that one? Or?
We're hoping that families will be looking to get out and maybe burn some calories before eating a lot of turkey and for a good cause, so.
I have a few questions.
St. Croix.
All right, so you probably have to have some supervision there on the across Second Street. The rest of the route looks pretty good, though.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking too.
we would have to have, you'd have to have officers at Third and St. Croix Street, and then you'd have to have an officer at River and Second Street, because of the main highway right there.
Now, are we charging
We would
the
have
Source
to,
for the part-time officers
or
paid
if I can get
full-time?
part-time
or the
officers,
full-time?
or a full-time officer, correct?
Okay, and you understand that we would have to charge you for officers?
Yep, do you know what that fee might be?
Yes, Marty would.
Part-time officers, if we can get them, are $21 an hour. I believe the current rate on a full-time officer is $53, I want to say, right around there, an hour, with a minimum of 2 hours,
Minimum of 2 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
because that's what we have to pay when we call them out.
And then are they going to be in need of barricades or cones for
don't-
any of these intersections?
No, not taking a look at this, I don't see. The only other thing I would think you would have to do is, because you're gonna be running in the park, you're gonna have to go in front of the park board
Okay.
and get permission from them. Right. The one issue, I don't know how long it's gonna take to run the 5K or so forth, but you're gonna have the officers at those intersections for quite some time. Normally what happens is they run through and it's done, but you've got them coming back, so those officers will be staying there for quite a while, so I'm hoping it's gonna be warm weather.
Yeah, us too. I guess I was thinking for a 5K, I mean, even if you were to walk that shouldn't take more than an hour.
Mhm.
But
Right.
maybe that's just me, so I guess we'll try to figure out the
Correct.
timing on that. Would we need someone scheduled, for instance, if we're going to start it at, what do we have down here, 9 o'clock? Starting time? So when would we need someone posted, at 9 o'clock or?
Well, usually what we'll do is we'll have the officer show up at like 8:30,
Okay,
just to make sure everything's on schedule and that they're in position, they can see what traffic looks like. Because if the weather conditions are bad, if it happens to be snowy and visibility is low, we might have to cancel your race just because
Sure.
of the safety.
sure.
But it won't be.
It won't be. I'm
No.
just saying,
Yeah.
should it happen.
Okay, do we have, well, we'd have to go to park board. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move that we pass it on to Park Board.
I'll second.
All those in
And
favor?
approved here. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll be going to park board, so they usually meet the first Tuesday of the month, so.
Is that something where we would come, like, to this
Yep.
meeting, same thing, we'd come to the park board meeting? Okay.
Yep, they just had their meeting, this past Tuesday, so it wouldn't be till next month.
Yeah.
So Melanie, did we send the information to you and you pass it on?
I can give you the information. I can email you the information.
Thank you. Okay, and if we can skip around again, and if we could go down to number 12, please, to consider request to restrict pedestrian traffic on Third Street Hill. We have Catherine, our city attorney here, and Alderperson Bernard, District 3, would like to speak on the issue.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. It's an issue that I think we need to address in one way, shape, or form. I've noticed more pedestrian traffic on the Third Street Hill, heading up toward Laurel, actually in both directions. You're probably aware if you drive that road, it's pretty tight, even for two cars to be passing each other. It's common for cars to be over the double yellow line. I notice when I come down the hill, a lot of times people coming up the hill are already over in the other lane. When you add a pedestrian to that equation, I think it's really a recipe for disaster. On the outside lane, there is actually no gutter even. The road bed runs right up to the road, right up to that wall that's along the Keys property. And so one thing I'd like us to consider, especially since there's a path that has been put through in Prospect Park and there are other routes down the hill, I think we really need to think about addressing pedestrian traffic, considering limiting it or eliminating it. I think it's a situation where you could have pedestrians actually causing a car accident as people try to avoid the runner or the walker. I can't think of any other road that we have, any other street that we have like that in town that is that narrow and sees that much traffic. It is a safety concern. It's a safety concern for pedestrians, but it's also a safety concern for cars that use that road regularly. And like I said, I've just noticed an increasing number of pedestrians, even though we've put that nice path up through Prospect Park. Maybe people don't know about that, or maybe we need to do a better job of pointing people in that direction. At the old parking lot where that driveway meets at Blakeman, right? Where that meets Laurel. Maybe we want to direct pedestrians up there. But it's a curvy road. There's blind curves on it. It's challenging enough without adding pedestrians to the equation. So, you could say pedestrian traffic discouraged. I don't think that's really strong enough. I think some people get on that hill. I'll be honest, I walked it once, and I realized after doing it, it was a really bad idea. Because there's nowhere to go if a car comes in either direction, especially when you're up against the guardrail or that wall. But I think some people do get on it and they realize, probably not real wise. So I think we need to alert pedestrians on either end of it. But I think you need to think about doing something more strongly and really putting the onus on pedestrians and saying it's a road we recognize is not safe, and it's not open to pedestrian traffic because of that. So I appreciate the opportunity to address it. Thank you.
John, go ahead.
I've also walked it. I used to live up at 10th Street, so I've been up and down that road and on the many, many times. I've almost run over pedestrians on that road myself. And almost, I think that the part you're talking about is on the one side, it's a sheer rock face, and it's also dangerous because rocks fall off there and things like that, so. Are you talking about restricting it just at the top of the hill then?
Well, I think where the sidewalk ends on Third Street is the obvious place.
Okay.
And then, you know, probably where Blakeman Drive comes out on Laurel. There's nothing, I mean,
Well, there are two driveways,
Mhm.
the Carmelites and then the townhomes or
Townhomes,
condominiums
yeah.
that are right there.
I mean, that's up to you. There's,
Because there, on the top of the hill, there aren't any sidewalks anywhere, so.
So,
right, but the road widens
Yeah, the
and,
road
I
is
mean,
wider, we could, it could
consider
still be,
it.
It's
it
narrow.
could be, it could be restricted right before the hill begins.
mhm.
I would think the only alternative would really to be to paint it for having a bike lane or something like that.
There's
but
not enough
it's just not enough
Nothing,
room.
there is
No, there isn't.
nothing.
There's not enough space to barely drive two cars up and down it, so that's,
Well, which gets back to the major problem, and that's speed. I mean, if you drive it at 20 miles an hour, you're not gonna run into another car, and you're not gonna run into a person. That's just, I was up and down that a couple times today, trying it out, thinking, you know, now if you're going 30, yeah, you're gonna cross the lanes, and you're gonna run into people and run into other cars, and I think that's what our traffic report says up there. I think one
well,
of our aldermen was hit up there by
you
somebody
can't,
coming right around the corner.
Right.
you can't count on, that's assuming that we have good weather, and, you know, I mean, people still walk it in the winter.
Oh, right.
So,
And I-
and when that happens, 20 miles per hour, 15 miles per hour, if there's ice in that hill, it's very slippery and very dangerous.
Right, and it's part of my walking path, I walk it all the time, so I'm aware of, you know, if you walk it, you have to be careful, and if somebody does come around too fast, you move out of the way. You basically use some common sense.
Is there liability on the city if we give a warning sign more so than if we restrict it?
Well, the situation is this, it's a street, there is no sidewalk. So streets are made for vehicular traffic, not for pedestrian traffic. That doesn't keep pedestrians from going on the street, but the city has not done anything to
Encourage.
open that road for pedestrians. And generally, whether to put a sidewalk or warning signs, unless it's required by some sort of traffic standard or traffic manual, is a discretionary decision with the city. Meaning it's an exercise of judgment, and there's no, you're immune, the city's immune from liability when there's no requirement that a warning sign go up. If you put up a warning sign, you've got to put it up properly, and you've got to maintain it, so that there have been situations where there probably would not have been liability without a warning sign, but if no standard requires it, but once it's up, it's got to be done properly, and it has to be maintained.
Because otherwise, the city then is liable
Yes,
because it
but-
recognized an issue.
Right, well, and, yeah, you've got to, in other words, if it falls down, then you would have to put it up, or, it's just kind of dicey when you go into an area where there's no requirement for the city to do anything, and they actually, you've already done something by not putting a sidewalk in there, it's not open to pedestrians. This would be covered, you know, if a car's coming outside the lane, going too fast, not looking out, you know, it's a private matter of, really for the motorist and the pedestrian to file suit and take care of it that way.
Are bicyclists considered pedestrian traffic, though? Because
No.
bicyclists are just as dangerous
No.
as, in
Yeah.
this situation, to me, as walking.
You
Right, but
could,
they can use the streets.
They can use the streets, but if we find that the street is too dangerous for a car to have to try and go around a bicycle, you know. Whether you're supposed to stay behind a bicycle or actually drive around the bicycle is, the driver makes
a
up their
double-
own mind at that point,
There's
is
a
my
double
point.
yellow line there which says you can't go around.
That's right.
across
So
I
you'll
the-
have
agree,
to,
I agree with the traffic rules, but
Yeah.
let's be honest, traffic rules aren't always followed. If someone wants to go around a pedestrian, they go around the pedestrian.
yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, we shouldn't be naive and assume that everyone's gonna follow the law all the time, because they don't. That would be naive, I think. That'd be closing our eyes to a
But then
problem.
What my point was is though, you, in a situation, the driver has to decide, am I going to put my vehicle at risk or my person at risk or not? I mean, that is a personal decision.
I agree. The 16-year-olds sometimes don't have that common sense. Would Ms. Alderperson Bernard?
Well, I guess the question I have is, if there's a pedestrian on the road and an accident occurs, and we've already recognized that the road is not safe for pedestrian traffic, at that point, who's at fault? Because, you know, we talk about protecting pedestrians, and I'm talking about a situation where you're going to have a car that's going to come around the corner, come upon a pedestrian, have no choice but to go into the oncoming lane to avoid that walker. At that point, whose fault is it? I mean, I think you're looking at a situation where a pedestrian could cause an accident.
Well, what the law is and what reality is are two different things.
Right.
So the law says that you don't have any liability unless there's a clear and compelling danger that is of such magnitude that you have no discretion not to do something. That's basically what the case law is. That was a situation where there was a state park or a local park, a pathway, no warning sign, no barricade, and a 90-foot drop. This is a road that's open for cars. You know, it's a judgment call, but in my opinion, it doesn't reach that level. You also have discretion as to how you take care of it. You recognize that there is a safety problem here. I mean, you have, just by having this discussion, you've recognized that, and that's not a bad thing. There's a couple ways to deal with it. You can restrict the speed so that people are going down slowly, and they're warned to do that, again, putting the responsibility on the person using the road to obey the law. You could say unsafe for pedestrians, use pathway at either end, then you've warned them. And, I mean, you can't realistically make sure every minute of the day that there's going to be no pedestrians, but then you've at least warned them. The risk you run with saying no pedestrians is, well, then how much oversight and enforcement do you have to do? And how do you properly allocate your law enforcement? Do you want them out there enforcing a no pedestrians and issuing tickets?
Yeah.
Probably not.
And I don't think that's certainly not what I'm wanting. What I'm wanting is there not to be people walking on that road, because realistically, a driver's going to be faced with the choice of following that person all the way down the hill or up the hill at 2 miles an hour so as not to go into the oncoming lane, or to try and get around that person, which is not safe.
Up in, my example was similar to yours, up in Taylor's Falls on the cliff, so they have a note that says, walk at your own risk. They're basically setting aside their liability, saying that we recognize this is an issue, walk at your own risk. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is that to tell people there's an issue, you know, walk at your own risk, because this is, we consider it a place that's, and as far as a car coming, you step out of the way. I mean, that, but.
I just drove it actually, and there really isn't, maybe in the summertime there probably isn't. You know, walk at your own risk, then you're kind of acknowledging, okay, walk, but.
They're gonna walk.
You know, you're just getting into a dicey situation. You may.
But there's another question, and that is 20 miles an hour slow enough? I mean, if we're saying that we've got crashes going on and other things going on, maybe we need to post it at 15. Maybe there's an issue down that, which would reduce the risk for walkers, reduce the risk for bikers, and reduce the risk for motorcyclists, or sorry, cars.
Even if we post at 15, which I don't necessarily disagree with, lowering the speed on that hill just in the winter, because that hill is miserable. There's still no place for a pedestrian or a bicyclist to go if something goes wrong. The bottom line is there's no place for a pedestrian or bicyclist to veer out of the way themselves. Cars sometimes can't control themselves, but people, when they're walking or on bike, can. There's nowhere for them to go. I drove up and down that hill just like everybody else after this came on the agenda, you know, a bunch of times, and you know, I don't know, staff recommendation is saying that we should approve no pedestrians on this portion of this street. What did you discover, anything?
Well, I took a look at the accidents, and there was only the one accident within the last 10 years up on the curves up there. And I definitely agree that it's not a safe roadway for pedestrians. There have been several times where I've been driving up there in a squad car and have had to go over into the other, partially in the oncoming lane because you've got a vehicle going that way. The other issue with having EMS and fire right down here, many of Jim's and Eric's people come down that hill with their red lights and sirens on, and they're going 25, 30 miles an hour, and they're in a hurry to get to their location too, so that makes it even
Right.
more dangerous. We haven't had any issues with pedestrians up there, but that doesn't mean we can't have any issues with pedestrians up there. I know everybody's walked down that path. I think putting out a warning saying, hey, this is unsafe for pedestrians, use the pass on either end would be a better alternative than trying to pass, an ordinance and saying,
Oh, yeah.
no, that would not be a good.
Well, I just think it puts enforcement burden on you. You've actually, you get to choose what you want to and how you want to use your enforcement resources, but I just think that puts too much responsibility on the city
And it seems
to
like it would put us
enforce
in a
it.
higher liability place too, because if we say
Right.
restricted no pedestrians and we're not enforcing it, then we can be
Right.
sued.
Right, because you've gone to the extent of prohibiting it, pedestrians are on there, and then you just don't enforce it. That's kind of setting a policy and ignoring it, which is not a good situation.
So can we put signs up that say caution pedestrians and bicyclists? The big caution sign like deer crossing or something like that?
I hate, you may want to ask your engineers. I'm not a traffic person. I would just think unsafe for pedestrians, bicyclists, use pathway. If you have a pathway that is intended for getting from the bottom to the top, I would say that, but I'm not a traffic person, and they may have, signs, typical language to use in a situation like this.
And we can maybe, if we can specify the sign ourselves in-house, we might be able to use Prospect Park pathway. So
Or-
that
Yeah.
Sign
people
it
understand
you
what
can-
pathway we're talking about. No, unsafe for pedestrians and bicyclists, use Prospect Park pathway with an arrow or
Well,
something.
the problem with the pathway is then the bicyclists would have to carry their bike up the.
Well, or
They have
they can go
those-
around.
What I'm saying is, instead of designating it, why don't you just say something, use alternate route?
Yeah, right. See,
and
I'm
then-
not a
That's fine,
traffic
that's fine
person.
too. I'm just saying that
Well,
if we're
they
gonna tell someone not to go that way, we need to give them.
Exactly.
The
going-
cyclists could go up Walnut.
Going
although-
down isn't the issue, it's fun going
Right.
down.
And down the hill's no big deal anyhow.
I think.
So-
Going up is the hard part.
Do we have a motion, anyone?
Well, I'm still contemplating slowing the speed limit down as an
Still nowhere to go, I hate to say it, but there's still nowhere to go, whether you go
Right.
2 miles an hour or 20.
And the other thing we have to take a look at is the legality of slowing it down under 25 miles an hour without it being in a specific
So-
zone.
Well, it's 20 right now, and it says slippery slope or something like that.
That's a recommendation when it's slippery out, 20
Oh,
miles an hour.
So it's not all the time at 20?
No.
No, it's 25.
I thought it
on
was
summer
weedy,
days.
so it was 20.
No, that's
I
just
can
a
drive
that's a
faster there?
cautionary sign.
Okay.
25 miles an hour.
So if you're concerned about the speed, we can bring that back at a next month's agenda if you want to look at that, but why don't we concentrate on,
The best I could do at the moment would be to move to consider,
How about move to put a sign on each side that says unsafe for pedestrians?
and
That
bike.
seems to answer our question, and it seems to, it doesn't put us in the place we talked about
Of
earlier.
course.
Want to add bicyclists to that?
Well, down the hill seems fine, it's up the
Well-
hill's an issue. So we could have a different sign on each side, right? Do you want to add
I'll make,
bicycles?
are you making a motion?
Yes,
'Cause
that's a
otherwise I'll
motion.
make a motion.
Do you want to add bicycles?
no, I'm okay with the bikes. I'll second the motion as it is.
To be, what is the motion?
Unsafe for pedestrians.
Yeah.
Yeah. we're in
Will you
discussion
add,
mode.
please use alternate route?
Yeah, we can do that.
Would that be a separate sign, or would that be on the same sign?
It's same sign, it would say
So-
unsafe for pedestrians, use alternate route.
So you want it to say unsafe for pedestrians, but you're not concerned about bicyclists going up a hill, even,
I've
or
ridden up,
down a hill.
I've ridden up that hill many times, and you kind of hug the guardrail. I know there's a spot along that wall there, but
Kind of a short spot there, yeah,
It's
before you
not-
get to the
It-
metal
it's
rail.
rare that I encountered the exact conditions that it would, I don't know, from my personal standpoint. I guess I'm not so worried about bikes.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
I'll say no, because I'd like to see bikes on there too. But if it ends up going that it just goes pedestrians, it has my support, so, thank you. And then moving on to, we're gonna go back up to the top for parking, number 3, since Catherine's here. And consider options for outstanding parking fines. Let me just get organized, sorry. Chief?
Well, this was brought up a couple times in regards to how do we collect outstanding parking fines. Currently, we have outstanding total of $62,170 worth of parking tickets. Of that amount, we have, let's see if I can break this down. I had it here somewhere. We have 1,928 tickets, or approximately, that are owe us $18,245. Those will be vehicles that are plates that have 3 tickets or more, or $100 or more in fines that they owe us.
Can you repeat that, 19? I'm sorry?
Well, that's how many outstanding citations there are that come up with that 18,245.
Okay.
There's less vehicles than that, because I had this put together. We have some people, there's one vehicle that's Wisconsin registration, owes us $1,745 in parking tickets. And there are a couple vehicles that are just over $100, but they can get that with one ticket, because they got a handicap parking violation is $100. But normally what it takes is, if you don't pay your tickets and the fines build up, it usually takes 3 tickets to get you that $100 mark. We do have several vehicles. There's another vehicle I'm looking at right now that owes us over $1,200. There's an $800 one in here.
Are those Wisconsin plates?
Some are Wisconsin. The majority are Wisconsin. There are some Minnesota plates in here.
However, they've obviously come to Hudson more than once to rack
Right.
up that high.
There is an Arizona plate in here that owes us $245. I'm not sure where that comes from. But what we're currently doing right now is that we're sending into the state of Wisconsin to have their registration suspended. But obviously, with some of these people getting $700 or up to $1,700 worth of fines, they don't care that their registration is suspended. So what we're looking at is, what is another way that we can go about impressing upon these people to get them to start paying in these fine amounts that we have on these tickets. There are a couple options out there. I know River Falls currently has an ordinance on the book where if you have 3 outstanding tickets that you haven't paid, they can, if they find your vehicle on the city street, they will tow it and impound it until you pay your fines. Another option that I've talked to Catherine about would be looking at possibly getting a vehicle boot and booting the vehicle until such fine has been paid, or a combination thereof.
And those are how much? 200 apiece?
I'm gonna say somewhere between $150 to $200 for a boot. I would imagine we might need 2 or 3 of them. I know we talked about this several years ago when we were looking at possibly booting vehicles in the boat launch parking lot, because we didn't want to tow vehicles with trailers on them.
Right.
The people that didn't pay the fines. I think the booting would work well if it's possible to do. If we come across a vehicle that's parked, say, in the 500 block of 2nd Street, for example, and there's a vehicle in front and a vehicle in back, obviously the wrecker can't get to it to tow it out of there. So if we were to able to put a boot on it until such a time that it clears up on the street that we can get a tow truck in there to take it out, we can. Or the person comes along and says, oh my God, there's my vehicle. Well, you owe us this much money, it's time to take care of it.
Sure. And that if you tow, you're adding another $100 onto their fines, where if you boot, you're not.
You're looking at probably $125 to $150 more added on before the tow bill. So, but these were some suggestions. The mayor had asked me to take a look into this and then have it brought up to public safety.
And the problem with booting something, and maybe only boot it for a day or two, it could be sitting downtown for a week then.
Well, no, the idea with the boot would be just to boot it in such a way as that it wouldn't move until we could get a wrecker in there to pull it out. It would be a short-term
Okay.
temporary
So
thing.
you'd still tow it. Yep.
Right.
If they didn't.
Unless they were come out, find the boot, and all of a sudden come down to City Hall and pay their outstanding fines. But that's why I had Catherine take a look at this and see if there was any way that we could do this or how we could formulate an ordinance and so forth.
What have you found out, Catherine?
I did check into it, and I did get a copy of River Falls ordinance. They just do the towing, and it's for 3 tickets or more. And you gotta set up with notices so people understand, or at least have been notified that this is gonna happen after you get the 3 tickets. I have not found anything that specifically authorizes a city to use an immobilization device, but I haven't found anything that prohibits it either. I did talk with, I put it out on the city attorney's listserv that goes around in Wisconsin, and apparently Madison had used it, or that's what people had heard. So I have a call into them, their traffic person. I think it's just worth checking out how other cities, if they have used it and how it's worked. The traffic person I talked to, not an attorney, but who deals in the citation, says, we don't use immobilization devices. And I thought, well, what's the history? So I am looking into that a little further, just to get, if we can find out if there's problems with them or just what the situation is. But absent that, I think you could adopt an ordinance that would authorize it. You'd have to give notice. I think you'd need to put something on the car that, gets someone's attention that their vehicle's been, immobilized, and specific directions on what to do and so forth.
No, I did talk with Joni. I met with her, and prior to meeting with her, and I don't know if she's changed it yet or not, but we were giving, the ticket is considered a first notice when they receive a ticket. Then we had a second notice, which Joni was sending out after 14 days, I think, or 10 days.
It's after 10
Yeah,
days.
After 10 days, and then after 30 days, she was sending out another notice, and then it would go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and they send a notice. So these people, I shouldn't say these people, but the violators have been getting 4 notices. Our policy in the city states that we should only be sending out 1 notice outside of our ticket. So the ticket, then another notice, and then send it straight to the DMV, and they send out a 3rd notice. So I'm hoping that she kind of changed that to just kind of stay in line with policy for more than one reason, and that is financially too, to save money on stamps and her time and, her energy. So, I mean,
Well,
it
you'll
would be
need
something
to-
that we could add to that notice when we send out a notice, if it is not paid with.
Well,
you
we'd
know,
have to have an ordinance authorizing it.
a separate ordinance.
Yeah, I think so. And the notices that there may be requirements in this registration suspension procedure under Department of Transportation rules that require more notices if you're going to participate in that. I didn't check that out, but we should get if our ordinance is not consistent with that, we should
Right.
get it consistent with that.
I'll check with that. When we
Yeah,
get back.
but, and you should put towing, just for the parking via towing or immobilizing, however the police department wants to do it. But I'll follow up I've got a call into, like I said, to Madison, both their police department and their city attorney's office, just to see if there was something that caused them to stop using these things.
So let's say there was nothing that caused them to stop and they just chose not to. Which way would this committee like to go? Would they like to err towards booting, towards towing, towards?
Well, it sounds like you're gonna boot and tow. You're gonna boot them because you can't get them out of the parking stall until everybody's gone, and then tow.
If that would be the case where it would be, you couldn't get the vehicle out of there, you would boot it. But if you could get to the vehicle and have it towed, it was like on Locust Street, in one of the angled parkings where you could get at it, yeah, then we would just have the vehicle towed right away.
So in the ordinance would have to say boot and or tow
Correct.
in the ordinance.
Because I assume that if we tow somebody's property, we're also responsible for that it isn't damaged while it's sitting in our lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, just like we are now,
Yeah.
when we tow a vehicle.
What,
But you don't generally tow now for just parking violations unless it's snow
We-
emergency or some
Well-
sort of emergency?
We do tow for parking violation, 24-hour
Oh,
parking, which would be the
Okay.
same thing as the snow.
okay.
If a vehicle's there longer, but what we do is if the vehicle's been there for 24 hours, especially like nowadays during the summer, we'll go and shock the tire and then we'll put a blaze orange notice on their car window saying this vehicle needs to be moved in 24 hours, it'll be ticketed and towed. If we come back and the chalk is still on and the vehicle hasn't been moved, then we ticket it and then we tow it.
Okay.
Did you have a question, John?
yeah, I'm just thinking I come out of a store and my car's not there anymore. Who do they end up calling? Do they call the police then?
We end up calling the police.
Okay.
And we would be the one, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
parking enforcement that would, if parking enforcement would come across the vehicle to have it towed, they would contact us. We would have an officer come and do that, because then if the homeowner or the owner of the vehicle comes running out yelling and screaming what you do about the vehicle, well, then you've got a law enforcement officer that can take
Train.
appropriate action on
Got
it,
it.
correct?
Right.
So, do you want to possibly postpone this to the next safety board meeting, and maybe we can get an ordinance read up between now and then to look at, drafted?
I had one other question. The intention here is to get the backlog of people who are continuous violators down, because
Right.
these are people who are just constantly violating. If we cut this thing back to 3 tickets and a tow, how many more people are we gonna hit with that? And are we going too far, is it my question? If you're really trying to get the people that are just not paying, they're just, they're intentional violators over and over and over again, this makes a lot of sense. But if we tow after 3 or 4, I guess River Falls does it and it works for them.
Well, 3 tickets is intentional violation, don't you think? Especially when you get
Well, it's
warning letters
unpaid.
after each ticket?
It's unpaid.
They're unpaid.
It's
They're
not
unpaid
that it's
tickets.
just that they've
They're,
gotten
they're
3.
suspended. Their
Mhm.
vehicle is,
Oh,
their
the-
registration is suspended.
That's right, and we do it at the time that the vehicle has been suspended
Well, it's
anyhow.
suspended after the first ticket goes unpaid for 30 days. And then they're
Suspended
driving,
after the 3rd ticket.
no,
right?
No.
it's suspended after the first ticket goes unpaid,
For
after 30
Oh, I
days.
thought it was the 3rd notice we
No.
finally, we.
Third letter, but
Right.
one ticket.
That's when we notify the county, and then they will,
No, we notify the state.
we notify
What
the
happens
state
is-
after three tickets, and then,
No.
or 3,
No, what happens is the ticket's issued.
oh, I'm sorry, 3 notices, not 3
Right.
tickets, thank you.
The ticket's issued, that's the first notice.
Yep,
After 10 days, we send them a second ticket.
right,
Or not a second ticket, what we call a second notice.
Yep.
After it reaches the 28th day, we send them a third notice, I believe
And
that's
we
about the time
notify.
frame. And we say, if you don't pay this within 5 days, we are going to send this to the state for suspension.
right.
After that time period, we send it to the state, because it's already bumped up the fines all the way to the max we can charge. Then the state sends them a notice saying, if you don't pay this within this many days, and we get notice from the city, we are gonna suspend your registration.
And I think that we have to go to the point of suspending the registration before we tow the car,
Well,
that's
yeah.
my point.
That, it's already, it would be, if we're towing cars with $100 worth of tickets, they're already suspended at this point, because you have to get 3 tickets usually to get $100 built up.
Unless there are
We're
these
saying we're
other.
gonna tow after the 3rd notice,
Right, but you can get 3 tickets
in 30 days, yeah,
in 3 days.
yeah.
Right, but not the point. I mean, if there's $100
That's why I'm
worth of
saying,
tickets
that's why I'm
out there-
saying, instead of doing it from 3 tickets, let's take it from a monetary perspective.
Right, which is
Look at it, if you owe us $100 or say $110 or more in fines, not saying tickets, fines, on parking, then we tow your vehicle.
And I'd be okay with that as long as we've also done they've received notice of your vehicle, your registration's been, because you can't drive it anyhow, because it's not registered,
Right.
so we should be towing it.
Right. And I'm thinking, if we send out the second notice, we could put it on the second notice saying, if you do not pay this fine within so much time, or you get this many tickets, your vehicle will be ticketed or towed, towed.
Yeah,
That
immobilized.
way
Towed
it's
from
pulled
whatever-
immobilized.
Wherever it's
Yeah.
found.
Right, I mean, it's these letters,
Yeah.
you'd modify the letters and have it in an ordinance,
Right.
and they would get plenty of notice, and hopefully what you'll get is compliance, so it's not happening, so
Right,
the tickets will get paid, and it won't be a problem. That's the goal, is to get compliance.
Well, and the boot makes it possible to get you now, because I can't tow you right this minute.
Right.
So
Right,
it's
that's-
gonna be a
that's
little
why I
more
like the
effective.
boot.
Yeah, I get it.
The boot is way more effective, and it's not very expensive to purchase a few boots that we can continually reuse.
One
Yeah,
thing
but
the
we
Madison,
wouldn't leave the car booted wherever it is, we'd still be towing it.
Yeah, we tow
Right.
it, but we would tow it once it was safe to do so.
Right.
But they might see it booted, is what John and my point is.
Yeah.
That it might be a half hour before it's safe to tow it, and within that half hour, the guy's or woman is coming out of a
Yep.
establishment and sees it booted.
That's true.
is that something that's readily visible?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you
You
can't
can't
miss
miss
a boot
it.
on a
Oh,
tire.
okay.
No.
I don't know what they look like.
Downtown Milwaukee in the past.
But I think we would need to put something, they actually, on the windshield to
Right.
say, your car's been booted, you know, or
Right.
whatever it is,
Exactly.
warning them.
Yeah.
And with instructions what to do.
Mhm.
Because if they can just walk down to the police department and
So,
pay it,
So when we
it'd
see
be
the
done.
sparks flying down Main Street, we'll know somebody's driving with the boot on.
There would be a lot more sparks than that.
Yeah.
so
Well, that's my concern, is there any way they could get the thing moving and then it could be a hazard or,
I don't think you can move a car with a boot on
The way
it.
they're designed, that wheel's not gonna turn and or it's not gonna go forward, so.
okay.
And I can't imagine you scraping that's gonna catch
You'd
concrete.
you'd be running into things in
Yeah.
front of you, behind you, because you can't turn, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I've been booted, but.
So do we
Anecdotally, you know.
do we have a motion at all to,
I'll move that we go forward with crafting an ordinance that includes towing after the vehicle has been marked as registration's been denied and they owe us over $100.
booting too?
Do you
Yeah.
want to send it to council just to
I think
see if
we-
they want an ordinance, or?
I think we should craft something before we bring council in to look at it as a recommendation from us.
Do you wanna make a recommendation that Catherine and I work on the ordinance so we can bring it back,
Yes.
hopefully next month?
Let's bring it back at the
Yeah.
next meeting would be great.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense
Is,
because to catch this up and to recognize that we're serious. If you get
Thursday
ticketed,
after
you need to pay your
council.
tickets.
Council meeting at 5 PM. That would be, when is that first?
No,
I'll look.
July.
That would
Fourth is
be
Monday.
July 7th at 5
Okay.
PM.
I'll second that with one question. How often do we find the people that are qualifying for this in Hudson? Is that something you're finding now?
Oh, you find them quite easy, if you take a look at this vehicle, especially a lot of them that owe us $500 or $400, we'll come across the vehicle. Because what they might do is they might park in a permit parking area, they'll start plugging the meters now more because they have so much. But if our staff is walking along and comes across the vehicle and they punch in the code into their handheld headset,
Okay.
the system can go bing, it'll just give you a notice, hey, this vehicle needs to be towed.
And some of these vehicles, possibly employees of the downtown establishments that have these tickets racked them too. So.
Okay.
So, all right, well, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I
you
did second,
All in
yes.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Catherine, you're welcome. All right, moving on to number 4, consider request to use Picnic Point for camping on Tuesday, July 19th, 2011, for the St. Croix River Association's 100th anniversary event, Moved by the River.
I can
I
speak
believe
to
that
this
was
one.
Lee, yeah, okay.
This is from Park Board. This group is coming down the river. They're working with the Chamber of Commerce. They've got a whole event scheduled for that weekend. And they're going from city to city. They figure they may have upwards to 200 boats, canoes coming down the river. And they're asking to use Picnic Point, that was our suggestion from Park Board, to tent camp for the evening and then move on. And we're talking about using Picnic Point and just on the other side of the boat launch, if they have too many people. According to the gentleman that's with them, who's a old Army captain, he said he should be able to tent a whole battalion in Picnic Point, so he doesn't think he'll need the other space. But the idea is that they would be there overnight. I made sure it came to safety and to the police, because technically during that time of the evening, the park is closed.
And Park Board, how'd they feel about this?
They're very much in support of it, and they're working with, the Park Board asked to have the Chamber of Commerce look at, just have a sign up there saying, move by the river or something, so they would recognize why they're camping there.
Okay, motion, anyone?
Yeah, I'll move to approve camping in Lakefront Park for the St. Croix River Paddle.
Second.
Do we want to put in a motion that they have a sign?
I think that's being handled by the Park Board and the
Okay.
Chamber.
So then all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next, number 5, consider improving turn lane signage on Gateway Boulevard at Crestview Drive. I believe Alderperson Wyland
Yep. This
and
is,
John, Alderperson Haggett also requested this.
oh, do you hear about it too?
Didn't we talk
I
about this
think he was the
last time?
original request last time during the meeting.
No, it was me,
Moved it to-
actually.
Okay.
Okay,
It was me. I was downtown, talking to one of our mail carriers who brought it up to me and said, when you're coming out of on Gateway, Taco Bell, there's 2 lanes there. The left lane, they're using as a turn lane, no, as a turn and straight lane, and the right lane they're using as a turn lane, if I got that right. And the problem is the people coming across, they're always guessing who's turning and who's not turning, and it becomes a problem. I think anybody's gone through there can see that. And I talked to Tom Zula a little bit about this, and we said, well, and with the mail
Here,
carrier, oh, he is?
like to
Oh,
speak,
good.
Mr. Zulli, if you'd like
what,
to come up to the podium and help lead with this one, you're welcome
But-
to.
And what the person I was speaking to said, she said, when they're coming across there, there's constantly people turning in front of those that are coming straight across because there's confusion, and said, we need better signage. One of the things I talked to Mr. Zulli about was, if instead those 2 lanes became, the left one was turn only and the right one is straight through or right, there would never be a question coming across if you're going straight or right, so it would alleviate some confusion. Also, there's no signage, there's no sign next to the road that says this lane is for this and this lane is for that, so in the middle of the winter, you don't know which,
Doesn't the right one already say straight or right turn, and the left one is left turn only?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it is. I drive that thing all the time.
'Cause I think
On
the
that
right-
side it is, on the other side it's different.
They're opposite, actually.
They are opposite, okay?
So, did you, I don't know, Tom and I talked about it earlier today, did you have a chance? to
I
look
did
at
go
it?
up there and look at that intersection, and they are opposite. On the south side, the middle lane is straight and right turn, or left turn. And one of the things we should consider is that, say if you're making a right turn when we're heading southbound from Taco Bell and you're gonna make a right turn, if we have that lane straight and a right turn is, say if someone was gonna go straight, the traffic behind that has to wait for the light, where if we have that lane turn only, a right turn only, then it'll keep the traffic flowing out of that intersection, then they wouldn't have to wait. So that's something to consider. Another thing that I see as a problem is when people are entering and exiting the Quick Trip, is when they go in, it's all right, but when people come out, there's like a traffic jam because, people are still waiting for the green, for the traffic signals to change.
Right.
I don't know if it's possible to talk with the Quick Trip people and see if we could make that one entrance an entrance only, and then on the back side of the building have that an exit only.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible, but that would alleviate a lot of traffic problems there.
And actually, that's the way I use it, because otherwise you're sitting there halfway across the line of traffic.
And I don't know how, if, who would talk to them, or if it would be even possible if they would consider that.
Is this something we'd like to have our traffic engineers look at, make a recommendation?
They certainly could, but like I said, if we would change that, right now, I think when we're heading south, the center lane is straight ahead and, no, I'm sorry. If we would change that, we could have the center lane as straight and left turn, and just have the right lane as a right turn only.
And,
Then it would be the same as the other side.
right, that's what I thought it was, it's not
Yep.
that way, though.
No.
So I think that's a good option. you know, something to consider. Then they'd both be the same, and then it would keep traffic flowing because traffic wouldn't have to wait for people that are going straight.
And if we did a signage, we'd do the signs to the right in the boulevards, right? We're not talking the sign
Right.
underneath.
No, that'd be too
And
expensive.
I think right now there's only one set of arrows toward the stop bar. Maybe it'd be another better idea to have two sets of arrows, and sometimes we can put the word only on the street
Yeah.
Mhm.
to, you know, make that stand out a little better. So that's all doable.
We have a motion, or you have something to say?
Well, I was wondering, Tom, would it be possible to run that intersection where keep Crestview traffic moving? You know, they can continue, the lights can work that, but when it's time for Gateway to start, have one side of the intersection go first, have the second side of the intersection go next?
Yeah,
Yeah, do
Yeah, we
it,
can
something
change-
similar to Cooley Road, except still have Crestview Drive open to go.
similar to
That
what
would-
we have on Carmichael and Cooley.
Yeah.
Just one, that's possible.
Would that cause a lot of backup traffic, though? I mean, that intersection on Sundays, for example, gets pretty backed up going both ways. Even with the 3-lane turn, people,
It would slow traffic down a little, I mean, it would slow it down a little bit, I think.
It was just a suggestion, I just thought maybe that'd be an easier way
But it
to.
would be a solution to any problems with accidents and things like that.
Right.
maybe we can try at a step process. Because we probably should change those lanes anyways, so they're consistent with each other, for sure.
And then put the signage up there to make it
And
really
put
clear.
the signage up and see how that, well, do we have a motion before we start making decisions without a motion?
Sure. Let's have a motion that we look at that, do exactly what Tom is recommending and paint the street and put signs up as people come forward recommending the turns. And authorize Tom to talk with Quick Trip about changing the ins and outs there. And maybe Denny, I don't know if Denny can help you with that.
I'll check with them.
Yeah. To change it so one is in and one is out. Alleviate some of the congestion on that corner.
So we're gonna have the double arrows on the ground with an only, stuff like, everything Tom
What Tom
suggests.
recommended, you bet.
All right, and we have a second on that?
Just to be clear, the middle lanes will be straight and left on both sides? And then the right lanes will be right turn only? Okay. Yeah, I'll second that.
And then, Tom, can you talk that over with Denny before we pull the trigger? See if he has any concerns.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
And then reminder that we have that policy for the cool little red flag, so people know there's a change in traffic. I mean, can we put that on those, on the new signs that show that there's a change in the way traffic flows in that?
Sure.
Do we need to add that into a motion, or is it automatically going now because of the policy?
I think it's automatically.
Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Excellent. Next. Thank you, Tom.
Mhm.
Number 6, consider request to remove stop sign on Grandview Drive and Spruce Drive. We could probably do 6 and 7 together, I believe, which is consider request to remove stop sign at 12th Street and Fillmore Street.
I'd like to do them separately.
Would you like to do them separate?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll stick with 6. Consider request to remove stop sign on Grandview Drive and Spruce Drive. I received a request from citizens to have the stop sign at Grandview Drive and Spruce Drive removed. We have attached an issue sheet. We have attached to the sheet the accident report. I also drive that street often, so I remember a time when there was no stop sign there. So if you consider the stop sign policy that we have in place as well, I would think, and I see here that staff recommendation also feels the same way, that this stop sign could definitely be removed.
I'd like to see, if we remove that one, that on the Spruce side, that we add the point that says cross-traffic doesn't stop. Yeah, that we add that to that sign. Because I think people are so used to cross-traffic stopping, if we don't tell them when we make the change, I think that you could add an epic accident. But other than that, I'm in favor of it. I think it's fine. I went through there, I agree. At most corners like that in the city, we don't have a stop sign there. The only concern would be if there's any point that there's so much traffic that you can't get out, but it doesn't look that way from the neighborhoods.
Or can't we just add the red flags onto the existing stop sign so people are more alert there's something going on here, let me look around, instead of adding another sign.
So, but it's right next to the high
I'd
school.
like to hear from the chief. That was just my thought.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Cross-traffic doesn't stop. Since it's not an intersection, it's a thoroughfare with a
Right.
T. I
Right.
thought that would be
I think that's a
useful.
good suggestion, because a lot of people do stop there thinking it's a three-way stop.
And if it was a four-way intersection, I don't think it would be needed because there's so much going on. But as a three-way with a through street, it just seemed to me it would be
Are you
valuable.
concerned because we're changing the way it is now, or because it's a through street? Because we don't have it down the street on Ash, we just have the stop sign, there's nothing that says cross-traffic doesn't stop.
I think that we know that on streets that are wide and long like that, people tend to, shall we say, go faster than the speed limit.
Right, I'm saying Ash comes with Grandview, it's the
Mhm.
same street.
But that's quite a ways down on the end, isn't it?
Well, it's still, people are still, it's not all the way at the end. I mean, there's still a distance after it.
But I think the point is that taking those stop signs out, people are so used to it being a three-way stop that
Right.
putting that little sign on there might be enough to catch your eye to go, oh, that's right, they took those stop signs out.
Well, and I question, I don't disagree with you, something should be put there. I'm just trying to look at alternatives to another sign, and possibly I asked him, when you were talking, to possibly, maybe if we could just put the red flags up above the existing stop sign, so people are more alert at the intersection, if there's been a change. And maybe they would notice what they're gonna stop, they see the signs, they look around.
And my only other reasoning for that is that when I drove up there, I thought it was a little bit of a blind intersection. There's a lot of stuff on both sides.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm fine with it, I was just looking for alternatives to more signs.
But you're right, the flags work for 30 days or so, and then we
Yeah.
take them down. And
So, I mean,
it just seemed to me like that intersection felt like it needed something else.
I did not get a chance to drive it. So is it just one person, or does the neighborhood in general feel like this stop sign, is it
there was
so,
multiple requests.
is it so inconvenient to stop there just because people they go through there, or?
There's no purpose to stop there.
Yeah, it doesn't even meet the stop sign policy. I don't really understand why it went up in the first place. And maybe we didn't have the policy at the time, so, well, we don't need to venture back to history, but
There's been some other stop signs that have been questioned in town, but normally it's because there's a school this way, or there's a lot of walkers that go here, and this one doesn't follow any of those criteria.
Okay,
so.
fair enough.
I mean, motion.
I'll make a motion that we remove the stop sign and on Spruce Drive, put in the note, cross-traffic doesn't stop.
Or a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay, then we're moving on to the next one, which is consider request to remove stop sign on 12th Street and Filmer Street. Again, I received a request from some citizens to have stop signs removed there. There's also an issue sheet for accident report, and staff recommendation suggested it should stay. Do we have any comments?
Yeah, actually, believe it or not.
Why not?
No, right, yeah. The,
Yeah, push that microphone closer in case no one's heard you for
right. If you're on 12th Street, I can see why, maybe I don't want a stop sign. Maybe you go down to the stop sign and then back up again. But if you're coming up on Fillmore, if 12th doesn't stop, and you get to the top of the hill, you don't want to stop going up the hill. You
But
gotta keep
stop on
going.
it. You stop anyways, there's a stop sign there.
No,
No, there
not
isn't.
going
it?
up,
Not
not going
on
up Fillmore. The stop signs are on 12th
Okay.
Street.
And if somebody's coming down this hill and they're not gonna
Right.
stop, they're gonna start sliding. This person here going up the hill isn't gonna stop.
Right.
I think taking it out would create more accidents.
Well, I believe what the staff believes too. I mean, anything, John, or do we have a motion?
I'm going to go with staff recommendation
All
also.
right, so,
I'll move to leave it in place.
second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let's move on. Don't know what this sheet's for. This is for Spruce. Okay, consider activating siren behind the fire hall. I believe Alderperson Wyland, this is you again.
Yeah, me again. This came up when the sirens went off recently and I was downtown, and I recognized that if you're really on the main street downtown, you can't hear the sirens very well at all. The one on top of the fire hall goes off if somebody's down there and turns it on. So I asked the director here to look into, can we set it off like we do the one behind the high school, set off by telephone. Isn't that the high school one? Yeah. A lot of the other ones are set up automatically. But it may be a possibility of just putting a simple phone line to that one, setting it off, so those people actually in downtown can hear the sirens better. I believe that's gonna be looked at next week.
Next Wednesday, the technician will be out here to look, see if in fact that siren can be updated to handle that technology or radio activated, and then how much will it be, and
Right, so we don't know the cost of updating.
we won't know the
Not
cost,
yet.
yeah.
No.
A lot of the technicians are real busy because come September, the state has requested that all the sirens become narrowband activated, so they're behind. That's what was the delay in getting this right here.
My concern was, as I was sitting down there, you know, I was having, I don't know what it was, breakfast or something, and that the sirens are going off like, did I hear something? And I'm thinking of Siren, Wisconsin, I'm thinking of some other places that the people in downtown didn't hear well enough.
So if we're gonna be updating, if we look at doing the fire hall, is it going to be updated to what you just meant, the narrowband?
If that siren can be adapted. It's an older siren. I don't know what, technology or how it's run.
So let's say it can't be adapted, and we pay to get it running, but it can't be adapted to narrowband. Is it not allowed to be used in, or does that get grandfathered because it can't be adapted? How do they?
No, it would just have to be activated by either phone line or some other type of system.
So it could still be used if
It
we.
still can be used, but it just couldn't be on that.
And it is set, I should say, it is set off sometimes if there's an emergency during the day and there's somebody at the
Right.
fire hall, they do set it off. It's just that the dispatch center can't set it off.
Well, maybe we get a motion to postpone this to the next meeting until we can get the information we need?
I will move that this is postponed to the next meeting, and we'll bring back detailed information about how we can use this siren and what it will cost.
I'll second with, can I get a point of clarification? A weather siren goes off, now, is it official that anywhere a weather event occurs in St. Croix County?
Yes.
It's not just downtown, right?
Right.
Okay.
St. Croix County. And we looked
And that-
at last year, getting that separated out somehow to be Hudson or what have you, so that people don't have to hear a siren for no reason in their minds, and it's just not something that can be done, so.
Right, didn't the national, that was because of some tornado in the middle states, right, I think?
Right.
Yeah.
It was because there was a notification area. And they are looking at the bigger counties now and breaking the bigger counties into smaller areas. But they said the problem is 20% of the damage happens outside the notification area. So they've created larger notification areas.
Okay,
So we have a motion to postpone. You did second?
I did second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next. Consider request to install crossing flags on Stage Line Road at Coach Light Drive at East Canyon Road and Stage Line Road at Stratford Way and Heritage Walk. I received numerous phone calls from residents in the lighthouse who have been having trouble crossing Stage Line. They thought it might be, they wanted to know what they could do to be more visible when they cross. We had thought about, I had called then Mr. Zulli and asked what would be the most effective way to do it. Would it be putting the cones in the middle of the street? Would it be adding flags? I think we both kind of deduced that the most effective and most effective way to be visible and most cost-effective way would be to add flags on those crosswalks that they can use. There's a lot of families that cross these crosswalks. And the reason why they cross at these crosswalks is because there's no sidewalk to get them to White Camp Park, which is the main park on the south side of Hudson. So they're faced with either traveling down Stage Line, which to me is very unsafe, even though it's a 35-mile-per-hour road. Cars average, I think, 50 on that road. And then, or, crossing, they're going to still cross in bits probably, but feel like they're crossing and they're kind of playing, Frogger. They're hoping that they can get across without getting smushed. Really, it's how they feel. And so the sidewalks that they've been using to get to White Camp Park have been the Red Cedar Canyon sidewalks. They're public sidewalks for public use, so they've chosen to take that path to get to the park, which leads them right to the park. So we have lots of families in the summertime, and even in the winter, because they use that park to sled now too, because it's a big sledding hill. So.
I think what we've done before is we've had the division or the the last set of flags, who requested them paid for them, putting them in. I think down they were compensated down here at Norlake. They actually paid for the flags for that crossing. I think the flags are not a bad idea at all. They worked well up at the Y. They work well down there.
But then you're gonna run into, there's Heritage Greens, there's Red Cedar Canyon, and there's the Lighthouse, who are all gonna use the flags.
Right.
The
So they
request
can-
came from the Lighthouse, so you have the Lighthouse paying for flags that everybody uses.
Or they can discuss it amongst themselves and share the cost.
Tom, do you have anything you wanna say? You're shaking your head back there.
I don't have an issue sheet. Did you put the cost of the
I
flags down?
didn't, I think it was $250, if I recall.
For the,
The material's about $150 material, and the labor is, in-house, so it's not all that much. I guess if we, $230 an intersection.
and then what's the attrition rate and the yearly cost to maintain them? So what we did down here is we asked them to pay for them originally, and then we took on the maintenance, because every year there's so many flags that either go bad or have to be replaced or put out or taken up. So there's a maintenance cost with it as well.
The flags are pretty inexpensive, like maybe $5 a piece or something like that.
Did we require the YMCA to pay for flags, or the development down there to pay for flags when those were put in?
I'm not sure, after you brought
Which-
that up, I'm not
which
positive on
development?
that.
There's a development right across from the YMCA that wanted that stop sign there.
That was the first one we ever put in, and we put it in at the cost of the city. The second one that was requested, we said, this is unique to a neighborhood, and we asked them to, we set a precedent at that point, that going forward, we'd ask the people in the neighborhood to help pay for it.
I can understand it. I guess I have a problem, and maybe I'm defending District 2 right now, but I guess I have a problem with asking neighborhoods to pay for something when they have no other way to get to a park that the city put in. The city put in a huge park, we put a $300,000 pavilion in there, paid by impact fees from their homes, and they can't get to it safely because we don't have a sidewalk because,
So you're suggesting, and it's not a bad suggestion, that we ask to have this paid out of park impact fees?
I'm asking that we have this, well, I don't know if it could be paid out of park impact fees. I was gonna.
If the intention is to access.
No, I don't think it can. I think that's a stretch. I don't think it can. I'm pretty certain it can't get paid out of park impact fees, and no, I'm not. I'm suggesting and I'm asking and requesting that it would get paid out of public works budget. So I will make a motion that we put flags in out of the, at the intersections of, the crosswalks in the Lighthouse area to Red Cedar Canyon, Heritage Greens on Stage Line Road, paid for out of the public works budget. I feel that it's safety concern, and I feel that these families have no other way to get to a park that we have provided for them to use, so.
Well, we have a precedent, which we thought we had set.
I think every circumstance is different, location of where a neighborhood is versus what we have in place for neighborhoods makes everything different. We have lots of precedents that we sway from lately, so I'm rolling the dice and sticking up for District 2 here.
What does the Public Works budget look like for presenting and maintaining flags? I mean, doesn't sound like a huge expense to me.
No, the signs, should last several years.
Okay.
The flags, seems like a few of them get legs once in a while and disappear. But like I said, they're about $5 a flag, so.
Which isn't very expensive for a neighborhood either.
I would tend to agree. I guess I will second your motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 2-1.
I support the flags.
Thank you. Okay, consider request to reduce, number 10, consider request to reduce the speed limit on Crestview Drive. I believe a request came in to Chief Jensen, if you want to speak on this.
Yeah, Mr. Libby, who lives up on North Ridge Drive, had brought this in and requested the Public Safety Committee take a look at it. He thinks that the traffic speed on Crestview Drive is too high at 40 miles an hour, especially with all the driveways of the businesses coming off of there. He feels that traffic speeds should be reduced in this area, and he's recommending it be brought down to 35 miles an hour.
comments?
I guess I'd like to talk about the crash data with Marty. I'm not in favor of reducing the speed. Long stretch of road, it's intended as a feeder street, and I don't see it as an issue.
I think, to Tom Lee.
Yeah.
I believe that road at one time was 45 miles an hour, and we brought it down to 40 miles an hour for the speed limit. And I believe one of the reasons Mr. Libby wanted this brought down to 35 was his Cooley Road is also at 35 miles an hour. Cooley Road is a much different frontage road than obviously Crestview is. Obviously Crestview having turn lanes, it's a 4-lane road versus Cooley, which is 2 lanes.
I did request an accident report for Cooley Road, just knowing that it's a much different street, but knowing that it's also a street that ranges from 30 to 35 miles per hour and is well-traveled. And, I mean, my rationale for asking for it, which I told the chief, was does 5 miles per hour make that much of a difference? And as we can see, I'm not quite certain it does, so Mr. Haggett, or Alderperson Haggett, do you have any?
Well, I ride on Cooley Road a lot, and it's hard to get in and out of
Crestview, or are you talking
both, actually. And Cooley is at 35, and it's hard to get in and out of there because it is 2-lane. And people go very fast on Cooley Road. So 35 makes sense for that. You could even probably argue that it could be 30 on Cooley. Now, Crestview, I tend to agree that 40 is sufficient, given it's so wide and has tons of turn lanes. My only beef with Crestview has always been O'Keefe Road, because trying to get around, make a left turn from O'Keefe going west on Crestview can be a challenge just because of that wide arcing corner there. Sometimes it's a huge intersection. So unlike the one at Industrial where Fleet Farm is at, this is so wide that some kind of traffic control might be considered, but I don't have a problem with the speed. I drive that road a lot, so I'm.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move
then, or-
that we leave the speed the same as it is.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next. Oh, look at that. We did number 11, the request for the source, and we did number 13. So, we're at EMS we did number 12, excuse me, so we're at number 13, EMS and Fire Department and Police Department updates. Eric?
Sure. Just a couple things for us. The school kids did their annual tour, so we had lots of students at all the public buildings, so we want to thank the kids for coming by and seeing us. We did hire 4 new on-call EMTs, and we're in the process of hiring 4 more new part-time paramedics. We had one going to the Army, one had another schedule change, so we need to just replenishing our personnel there. The handout that I gave you guys I apologize, we weren't real sure if we're going to put it on the main agenda or not. It's more of an informational item to see get your thoughts, let you know what we're doing. This is kind of a internal guidelines that myself and Jim Fry, and then we included Marty in on just day-to-day operations regarding rescue. As the services get busier and we interact so much as it is right now, we felt that it was time to get some kind of formalized guidelines so we're all on the same page. And it's not in response to anything negative that happened specifically or anything. It's just with all the NIMS training, which is the National Incident Management System, and the disciplines that each department does, and we're helping each other out and going on calls. It's not uncommon now to hear a fire engine going to a medical call to assist. And so we put this together based on some other services that share resources and that. And it's going to outline, I feel, and Jim feels that it's just more of a efficient way operationally for the departments to run now. So we just put this together. So, so if you have any questions about it, or Jim, I mean, if you want to add to the.
Yeah, I presented this to the advisory board. And this might have to come on a different agenda, but they were looking for a recommendation from the public safety and the council as at least being reviewed and accepted kind of thing.
Okay.
That was their recommendation out of the Hudson Area Joint Fire Advisory Board. Obviously, it's not on the agenda for this time.
Right, we can put it on, I mean, can it wait?
Yeah.
So let's, can
Needs
we
to
put
wait,
that,
yeah.
please, Melanie, on the,
That was their wishes anyway, that the three chiefs sign off on it, and that it would go through the Public Safety Committee and the council.
sure, let's put it on next month's agenda then, please, Melanie? Thank you. That's it?
You have something else too. You want to discuss the work you did downstairs?
Well, that's coming up under informational items, so we'll get to that.
The standing.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
so can we, Jim, since you started talking, why don't you continue on?
We held our golf tournament last Monday. It seemed to be a success despite the very warm day of it. Nobody shied away from golfing. They seemed to have a good time, and the final tally's not in yet, but hopefully we'll have raised a couple of bucks.
Good.
I do have an informational item or something that has come up. We've had an inquiry from a resident that would like to plant an area of prairie grass. And Dave and I had discussed this a little bit. Might take some council review. There's two items with the prairie grass within the city. How do you differentiate between prairie grass and noxious weeds?
Right,
And then second, if they plant prairie grass, you have to burn that off every couple of years or so.
But this would be instead of a lawn?
It's certain areas, yeah. Well, no, it's certain areas. This gentleman has an erosion problem. It's in the lighthouse.
do you want to put that on an agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
just the informational, that's gotta be
Then on-
burned off.
again, on next
and-
month's agenda too, so,
And the burning ordinance doesn't allow for that type of.
okay, we'll put it on
stuff,
next
so
month's agenda and discuss it then.
That's all I had.
Jim?
I would echo what Eric said here. We had a wonderful and very fun time this May with the children in here for meetings. We brought the school kids down to the fire hall. As usual, May is a very, very exciting month for all the kids coming down here for fire hall tours. And it went real well. We also had the smokehouse up here. There were kids coming in from different schools from the smokehouse from River Falls. And a lot of positive feedback like that. The kids do like crawling around in smoke, believe it or not.
Great.
It's not real smoke, it's fake smoke.
How to get out, what to do in case
That's
of.
good.
And the kids enjoyed that. One other thing I'd like to just mention, we got the 4th of July coming up. And citizens, please be very careful with all your fireworks. Either personal safety, so we don't get burnt, or when you're shooting them off, we don't start fires. So that's coming up here, obviously. And we always have a few incidents every year with something. We really haven't had a lot of fires started by fireworks, but there's always that possibility. So again, caution. Hopefully the grass will be greener and won't be dried out by that time. But we do have grass fires have started from fireworks. So again, extreme caution should be used when you're enjoying your fireworks.
Great, thank you. Marty?
Just an update, we've completed our background investigations on our 3 of our candidates for patrol level position, and I have given a tentative offer to one of them, contingent on them passing the psychological and physical. So at the next meeting, I should be able to announce who that person will be, or at the next council meeting, we might have that person sworn in, but that's based just on the physical and psychological. So that's where we're sitting at right there for that. A couple of reminders. One, just want to let everybody know, I know tomorrow the high school still has 3 hours as well as the middle school. This was the official last day of school, so you're going to probably see a lot of kids out running around. Just be careful. You're going to have more kids out. They're going to probably be a little bit wild, especially tonight. So we've got extra bodies out, kind of keeping an eye on it. So just keep an eye out for the kids. And then another reminder is that we've had recent break-ins to vehicles again. I encourage everybody, please don't leave anything of value in your car. People have been going around, they've been breaking out windows if they see something that they believe is valuable in the car, taking it, or if you leave your car open, they're gonna go through it and rummage through it and take a look for items that they can take. And they're taking money, they're taking cigarettes, they're taking iPods, they're taking computers. If there's something of value in that car, they're gonna get it. So I encourage everybody, if you leave your car out on the street, please do not leave anything of value in sight, so people, or whoever's doing the stealing will break into your car.
What can we do to help you find out whoever's doing it?
Well, if anybody's got any information of suspects that can help us out who's doing it, we could sure use that. If anything suspicious, the main problem we run into is a lot of times people will say, well, I heard a noise 2 nights ago when the night of the break-ins, and I didn't think anything of it. If you hear something suspicious, please call 911 and let us know. That's our job. That's what we get paid to do. It might seem insignificant to you at the time, but it might be something that will help us solve these cases, or at least help deter these people from breaking into cars.
Is this happening all over town, just downtown, just up at County Market? I mean, is this kind of
It kind of,
citywide, or-
it's citywide, it's sporadic though.
South side.
It'll hit the old part of town, on the north end. It hit Lee's district here a couple times this year. It's been up in Mary's area. They'll hit the parking lots one time. And sometimes, in fact, they just hit my area here a couple weeks ago. But it appears that we're getting different groups of people coming through. A lot of times, if you get a vehicle that's been rummaged through because it's left unlocked, it's usually teenage kids looking for change, or looking for the iPods, or looking for cigarettes. But if you get somebody that's smashing out a window, busting out a window, using a tool to get at equipment, that's usually a professional thief. He's looking for stuff that he can either sell on eBay or sell at a pawn shop or something along that line to make money. So there's usually 2 groups of it going through. And especially with summer coming around, you're going to have the kids out late at night. And it's harder for us when we're on a patrol, because the kids see the person see the headlights coming down the street. They don't know if it's a squad car or not, but they're ducking out of sight until the car goes by, and then they're coming back out again and walking through vehicles.
So to piggyback on the theft thing, outside of car theft, there's been a rash of political sign theft lately too going on both sides of the aisle. So if you see people, diddling around any of the political signs in the middle of the night, maybe it's probably not, I'm sure they're not making sure it's secure. So
We should remind people that they can have 2 signs, one on each, one facing each street if they have 2 streets, otherwise just one, right? Isn't that what our new ordinance says? Because I've seen some that have a bunch in the same yard.
Right.
I know according to our current ordinance, you can't do that.
Right.
okay, informational items. Updated EMS and fire department space.
Do you want me to tell them, or do you
It's
tell
up to
you?
you. Well, we coordinated the movement of all the EMS stuff out of the garage space. There was a lot of good work done here by everybody, actually. There's a number of people, a number of departments that got together, and we moved all the files out of what used to be the old, what space was that, Marty?
Cage.
The cage, moved it out of the cage. Nancy worked on it. Elizabeth worked on it. I mean, it was an effort by a lot of people.
I'd like to give thanks to Pat.
And Pat did a,
Pat did a lot. Pat did
Tremendous amount of
probably
work.
80% of the work, so.
yeah,
that would
he
be-
moved all the files and tore down the shelving, put in the shelving. So, great job by everybody involved. All the chiefs were involved, helping out, trying to figure out how to get everything arranged so we could use a garage as a garage. And that was the goal, to say, this is garage space. Let's put the files where files belong, and let's free up the garage space. To you. What have you done with it now that you got it?
Well, we're in the process of making even more room, because right now that currently we keep all the dive rescue equipment that's out. We are going to furbish the trailer to store the dive equipment in there permanently. I have some volunteers coming, and we'll get some wood and build cabinets and everything else and hook up the generator. So the goal is they'll have that in the dive trailer will go in the back, the other trailer will go in the back. That'll free up even more space now. So, and then again, it's going to be mix and match depending on the season and the needs. Jim may need to put something over there for a while, or come winter time. So we'll,
Great.
but with all 6 stalls open up, the options are a lot better now.
Great.
And then,
Excellent.
Jim could talk about your new space.
I got 1 coat of paint on the walls last week, and I've got some, getting quotes for carpeting, so that's where I'm at with it. I have it. moved, but I'm moving on it.
So we're getting very, very close to, Jim will be finished, Eric is finished, and we'll have the spaces that we've built out stable, and we know what we're gonna put where. So we'll be able to now start looking forward again to say, what do we do next? Or how long will this solution last us? A 10-year solution, 20-year solution,
Great.
10-day solution?
We
I'm
had,
looking at Jim.
Yeah, you know what my answer is.
okay, we had on here for B, discuss long-term capital projects related to public safety. I think that kind of stayed on from last month. I did mention the fire truck last month, if there's something more you want to add to that, otherwise we can move on.
I will mention that Dwayne Baki, the new member of the Hudson Area Joint Fire Board, and I are gonna work together to actually create a capital plan, how things might fit into our budget.
Excellent.
Yeah, the way it is now, and then at that point, then I'll have a specific year, and then we can look at how that fits into the city's bonding schedule as well.
We're doing this.
What pushes the need to replace the ladder truck?
It's age.
Okay, not
30 years
mileage or,
old. It's 30 years old.
it still works?
It still works.
Okay,
Doesn't look it.
update on collection of outstanding parking ticket fines. I think, we had that up above, so we could probably take that off next month, Melanie, because it's gonna be on next month's agenda as a regular action item. Update on downtown parking meters. Have meters been moved, Marty, yet, or I haven't?
I haven't seen anything. Tom would be the one to ask
No, I
him.
just didn't know if I was
Yeah.
thinking about that today. I didn't drive by to look.
There's nothing down in the Phipps lot. They haven't done any work down there yet.
Okay. All right. Let's keep that on, maybe Melanie to stay on that. All right, and, item E is dog waste and registration information. I asked this to become an informational item so that, maybe Dave can talk about the ordinance in regards to dog waste and how you're to care for your dog waste and so on and so forth. There's been a lot of complaints. It's a citywide issue. But there's a lot of complaints in spotted areas, but because we know it's a citywide issue, can't put signs around the whole city, but we can at least remind people how to handle their dogs and to license them and stuff. So if Dave, you could just remind them.
Yeah, the ordinance does state dogs have to be licensed and they have to have their shots. And of course, there's neutering of the cats and the dogs and things. There's all in the ordinances on that. The dog waste, basically, the ordinance says that you gotta manage your pets and pick up after them. We had one incident this year, just one, and the first one I've ever heard of. The gentleman was not picking up, well, I guess he was picking up the dog waste, but he's just throwing it down the sewer. He thought that was perfectly fine. This was wasn't a sanitation sewer, it was a storm sewer. Well, the storm sewer ends up in the river and or holding ponds, and that doesn't add to the algae and everything else growing in there. We did talk to both of them. They came out of my office and we advised them that was a no-no. So you the ordinance, you pick up your dog waste and dispose of it in a proper manner. And you are correct, Mary, it's a citywide thing. We get complaints probably a couple, 3 dozen a year throughout the city, different areas where people just forget about. The biggest complaints happen in spring because they don't go out and pick out in the wintertime.
Right.
Snow melts, warm weather comes in, and then the stink comes. So again, folks, at your pets, you gotta manage them, and also keep them under control. Dogs cannot run loose through the city. You gotta have them on a leash or and on your fence. You just can't have them run willy-nilly. And even in the public parks, cemeteries, you got them under control and you got to pick up after your pets. Or what we do, we send out notification upon complaint to the people that are in violation. And if it continues, we get another complaint, it gets turned over to the animal control and they are talking to you and or issuing citations.
And the citation pricing for not having your dog or cat licensed or leashed are, do you know them off the top of your head? I think
I
I
do
do,
not.
but I think they're $100 or,
100 come on hours, I think, after second violation or something.
The other one on dogs is the barking dog ordinance.
Yep.
I think we should throw that back on the agenda just to have it discuss it this spring, because it's already become an issue, I know, in my neighborhood of,
Are the
dogs.
are they calling it in though when it's, that's the
Well-
biggest problem we run into with the police department is that the neighbor's dog barks all night long. Well, call us when the dog's barking, then we can take care of it.
Right.
That's the issue we've run into.
I just thought it would be good to maybe have it on the agenda next
Okay.
month. We can just look and see publicize what we do with it, the barking dogs.
Informational item, please.
Informational.
All right, is there any other items for future? Thank you, Dave, by the way.
Tom and I met and discussed the snow plowing issue, so we're still on that. As soon as we have some modifications to the ordinance, we'll bring it back,
Okay.
but we are on it.
Do you have something for future agenda? or-
Yeah, I do. We just met with the county emergency management folks and with the new state guidelines, and it's kind of readdressing what was brought up last year, what the county and our role and the county's role. And from what I understand, the county is going to be following the state statutes that are in place now, putting the onus back on an individual communities that require them to write their own plans, update everything. So I'd probably get with somebody and discuss and figure out some type of, I'd like to put it on an agenda maybe
Okay.
next month
Okay,
to get a game plan for us in the city, so.
okay. Any other items?
I don't have anything.
Anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.